Hello everybody, my name is Austin. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at Crypterium, and recently in a Telegram chat I promised that I would give a quick overview of what's good, what's bad, what's happening in the future, all related to Crypterium of course. So I'll try and keep this nice and short so that I can keep your attention for at least 5 minutes. So let's start with the back. What happened in 2019, what was good, what was bad. So I think on the good side, we got most of our products launched. The platform is stable. We were able to make core transactions without any significant difficulty. We were able to do this efficiently in terms of the staff numbers involved, etc. But on the negative side, we did face really a much greater proportion of fraudulent activity than we were ever anticipating. And that then had a knock-on impact to many of our other features. So when we work with partners, of course, one of the things is that you have to be a good partner for them. And if you turn out to be a bad partner, then that will cause you problems. And one reason why you can be a bad partner is if you are sending fraudulent activity to them. So if you've got an acquiring partner that is helping you to effectively process money to acquire crypto, and a lot of that transaction is unfortunately fraudulent, and then that can have a significant knock-on effect. And the only way to combat that is to combat that ourselves. We can't pass the problem on to somebody else. So when we launched some of our services, we had some really great success. I mean, for example, with the card that we issued for Union Pay, it's still the only global card out there. We had, I think it was 114,000 people register for it. We did approximately 30,000 people filled in the application form, and that was in a very short period of time. And then the cards were being issued, and that was all very successful. But then we hit a problem in that there was quite a bit of fraudulent activity on those cards, and that means we have to check each transaction. That then had a knock-on impact into other areas of business. When we had the acquiring business, people being able to effectively acquire crypto, that was really very successful in terms of the number of transactions and the volume of transactions. But again, we were hit by quite a lot of fraudulent activity. Now, some of it's very obvious. So if you've got, for sake of an example, somebody who is from, I don't know, Brazil, who has a passport from India and is using a Polish credit card to buy crypto, there is something fundamentally wrong with that. Not because of any of those three countries, but those three countries really shouldn't go together. Somebody who lives in Brazil from India with a Polish card just doesn't really make sense. So those type of frauds are quite obvious to spot, but people are a lot more clever than that, of course. So what that meant for us is that we had to put in a manual process. We had to effectively check almost every single transaction. And that didn't just apply to acquiring the card, it also applied to payments in, payments out. And it meant that our service for a period of time went a little bit slower than we would have liked. Now, what you have to do to resolve that problem is to automate everything. But we had to build a new level of automation on top of what we'd already built. So we thought we'd built a really good automated system, as I say, but the levels of fraud were just more sophisticated than we had anticipated. And please don't think that we were, a bit naive here. Let's remember that our CEO is an ex-CEO of Visa, and he's seen every type of fraud there is. But we're in a new industry, and new industries come up with new questions and new problems. So we put in some manual processes. We've now automated all those processes, and the speed and everything is back to normal. So that was a negative for us. But during that period, it gave us an opportunity. So we knew that the card was really very successful. We knew that people wanted it, the people were loading it, people were using it. And if we put the fraudulent part to one side, which is to say we're very happy that we fixed that issue now, we also realized we needed a better card. So the card that we had, yes, it was the first global card, and yes, it gave a lot of the features that we hoped, but it was also a little bit slow, a little bit clunky. It didn't do everything as quickly as we wanted. So for example, if you loaded, it took a couple of days, which really is not what we want. So we actively went out to find ourselves another Union Pay partner. We really wanted to stay with Union Pay because, as I said, it's a global card, and I'll explain why that's so important in a minute. So we wanted another partner. that could do everything instantly. So that is happening right now. We have ourselves a new partner. The new partner is able to do everything pretty much instantly. The payments are instant, the loading is instant, the text communication after you do a transaction is instant. Everything seems to be working according to the schedule, and everything in terms of the pricing is also slightly better. So the FX rate that people will get is also better. So right now we are issuing cards to those people who've already had cards, and as I said, we had something like 30,000 people who applied for cards, and that, that's a significant transfer that we need to take place. We're also, timing wise, isn't perfect because it's the end of the year. The Apple Store shuts down any new application updates during that particular period, and we're also facing a new KYC requirement, know your customer requirement. That's not driven by us, that's driven by regulators. It's a minor change, but it means that we do have to make significant changes again to the platform. People over a certain amount of transactions now need to provide more information, and there's a little bit more information required up front. Nothing that we think will affect our business model, but all of those things together means that we'll be issuing new cards to new customers again, let's say from the middle of January onwards, and we'll make a really big push with that. But cards and the global aspect of cards is really critical, because for the last 3 or 4 months, what we've really focused on is the B2B2C model. And that's a bit of a mouthful, but what I mean is we will provide businesses with a particular service that they in turn provide to the user base. So right now, pretty much everything we've done so far is business to customer. So we have a direct link to all our customers, but really there's a fantastic opportunity out there in the business to business space. And that's where we've put a lot of effort in. And two efforts particularly, and I'll just give you maybe an example. So the first area is payments. So if you are familiar with the payment space at all, you will know that certain industries, certain businesses really struggle with bank accounts, and they really struggle with international payments. So let's say, for sake of argument, that there is let's say an exchange or a business mining, let's say a crypto mining business, or maybe a pharmaceuticals business, or maybe a multi-level marketing company that sells a whole range of products. Now, some of those businesses will have agents all around the world. They may be in 170 different countries, and some months they might earn money, some months they don't earn money, but they may have to pay as many as 20, 30,000 people on a monthly basis. And that is an incredibly difficult thing for some of these businesses to do. First of all, you've got the international IBANs and all the transfers and SWIFT payments and all the various details there. Secondly, you've got the processes that the banks require you to do. And then finally, not only is it complicated, it's also very, very expensive. Let's say the pharmaceutical industry. Let's say you're working in legalized cannabis, for sake of argument, and it's completely legalized in the state that you're working in, but you cannot actually make payments because the banks won't give you a bank account. Now, that is a real scenario. So all of these companies are looking for ways to make their transactions better. And in that example I just gave, they might be paying as much as 7, 8, maybe even as much as 10% for a transfer. And it'll take days and a lot of effort. So we've come up with a solution effectively for those type of businesses to be able to effectively convert fiat currency into crypto. We send crypto, and then at the other end of the equation, of course, the customer has received let's say a stable coin or a crypto coin, and then they need to cash it out. Now, within this process, what is critical is to have a cashing out solution. That means a payment card. So for us, we had to have this Union Pay global payment card to be able to satisfy this solution. And it needs to be cheap, it needs to be efficient, it needs to be instantaneous. So instead of a process where the company needs to send all this information to the bank and pay all these fees, and it might take 3 or 4 days for the money to go through, and all the problems that they will face, what they can do with our solution is effectively either send us crypto, and we will make an instant transaction. Now, they would send us crypto and give us a whole list of just telephone numbers. You might know that within our application, we have a very simple feature of you can send money to a telephone number. So they would give us a list of telephone numbers and the amount of money. They would give us the total amount of money, and then effectively we would send that money instantaneously to those users. Now, when the user first opens the application the very first time, they will see a virtual card in there. They will apply for the full card, and then the full card will arrive, let's say, within 2 weeks, and then they can spend it. And as I said, the new card has very good transaction rates and conversion costs, etc., FX rates. So for the user, it means that they're getting the money reasonably quickly compared to, well, actually almost instantaneously compared to a bank. The fees that they will pay will probably be not much less than they'd have paid in a bank. But also it is, let's be honest, outside the domains of the standard bank account, which for many customers they might be very happy with. And for the company, they've been able to make a transaction to maybe 20,000 people in a day at a relatively low fee. If they're using crypto, the fees are less than 1%. If they're using fiat, there is of course a conversion cost, but it's still significantly cheaper than they'd be paying with banks. Now, we have already lined up 7 new partners for this. The first one is being integrated, actually was integrated in November, tested during December, and everything is working very nicely. So in January, we're making a major push on that. Now, those 7 partners that we have approximately 500,000 users between them. Now, of course, not all 500,000 get paid every single month. Maybe some of them only get paid once a year, but nevertheless, that's 500,000 people. And every single one of those 500,000 people will effectively have to download our application. The money will sit in that application. So that's a very exciting feature that instead of having to go user to user, which is still a core part of our business, it's a very exciting development. And then the next stage of that is to go full white label. Now, what I mean from that is maybe some people don't just want to be able to send money, they want to also brand the application as their own application and provide all of the features that we currently provide. Now, again, there are many companies that would like to do that. The easiest one to think of maybe would be an exchange. Exchanges are always looking for ways to differentiate themselves. But to build all this capability themselves, it might take them $10 million, $15 million, and 3 years to do it. So the idea of being able to white label our solutions, share in the fees, we would show something like powered by Crypterium somewhere in the application. That is very attractive. And again, we are doing our first integration right now, being tested, and again, everything seems to be working. So at the start of 2020, we're not turning our focus away from the direct user base, but to be able to bring on hundreds and thousands of users very, very quickly with just 1 or 2 commercial agreements with our partners is very attractive to us. So that's why going backwards, fixing the fraud issue was absolutely imperative to us. We had to get that completely sorted, otherwise we just can't get the partners, we can't deliver the promises. So it caused us a bit of a problem for a while, we had to slow down services, etc. But as far as we're concerned, we've managed to do that. Then getting a perfect card is also very important. And as I said, everything's been tested, everything seems to be working really well, and all the fees and everything is better. So moving into the new year, we're really very excited as to the growth that we can bring on board. We're capable of bringing on as many as 10, 12 new partners a month. Now, maybe we won't be able to find that many partners straight away, but we've already got, as I say, 7 partners for the payouts, and we've got maybe not as many as that right now in terms of pure integration, but we've got maybe as many as 20 or 30 moving into the MOU phase. So we're very excited as to what that will do for us. In terms of other products, we do have other products up our sleeves. So the first one is an IBAN. We would like to launch an IBAN capability. We are debating still whether we go for the full IBAN capability or whether we go for a simple storage facility. And what I mean from that is, if you imagine, say, Coinbase or some of the exchanges, you can put money directly into, say, Sterling or a Euro account. Now, they are not providing that banking capability, somebody else is providing that banking capability. And that's very simple for us to do, and we've got a number of partners that have offered us that service. Then you can go to the next stage, which is a full banking capability. So any digital bank, for example, say Revolut is a perfect example from the UK, we can do the same as that. However, we're not entirely sure the economic model of that second function. So probably we're going to go down the path of giving people the option, first of all, of just having the ability to store their fiat currency inside the wallet. It would still be protected in the same way as say a traditional bank account would be, but it wouldn't be the full banking facility. We would test whether people are using the storage facility, and then if they are, we would probably then move into the full banking capability. And then the next thing, which is probably going to be launched in the first quarter, are savings accounts. Now, I'm a really big fan of savings accounts because I think it's a very easy win for everybody. The user who just has his crypto sitting there doing nothing, he can earn money, and we as a company, of course, can take a small fee for doing that service. And there are many partners that we can work with on that. The only issue, and I mentioned this in a recent chat, is when you provide a savings facility, we are effectively lending money to somebody else. We don't just magic an interest rate on crypto. Somebody has to work with that crypto, and it's pretty much margin trading, professional margin traders. They borrow the money, they move the money between the various exchanges, and they make a bit of money by just being very fast with their systems and services and understanding spotting gains, etc. Some of them might be being a little bit more sophisticated than that. But anyway, we have to lend the money to somebody else. So before we launch that, we need to be 100% certain that whoever we work with is 100% secure, that they are insured, that there's all sorts of safety nets for us. Now, we've got several partners lined up, and there's some names in there that you'll know that we could work with. I mean, for example, we're very comfortable with 5 or 6 companies that you'd know. But picking the right one and making sure that we're completely comfortable with it will take us a little bit longer. So in terms of the order of our priorities, it's the B2B2C products that I've mentioned, and then it is the IBAN, and then it is the savings. But all of those will be out by the end of the first quarter. I'm pretty confident of that. Maybe savings might move a little bit early into the second quarter, but everything else I'm confident will be done in the first quarter. And that's it really in terms of where we're heading. The team is running along nicely. As I said, we've got nice traction, some really nice products on the go, and we think we can quadruple our user base within a reasonably fast period of time based upon this B2C product. In terms of the market itself, I don't consider myself to be any sort of guru that can predict what the market is, but we as a company feel that right now the market is just looking for a new level. But generally the trend is still upwards. If you look at all the various charts, you read sort of the reports that Tim Draper comes out with and says it's going to be 250,000, and see the logic as to how he comes up with those numbers. It doesn't matter whether you completely believe everything or not, but I think the general feeling is Bitcoin is still far from dead. I mean, it's just having a small breathing space while people work out, what the next stage is. Facebook came in, didn't do what it hoped to do. Telegram came in, and then there were all sorts of problems. So the last 6 months, 9 months, it's inevitable that there has been a sort of a quiet period, but we're very confident that there will be an upside. I personally am still in the hold category of a personal investor. I'm not saying that's what you should be. Of course, that's your own personal choice, but I'm feeling still pretty confident in this space, and I just feel that we've just had a 6-month period. Now, this is one of the most volatile asset classes, I guess you can call it, and yet right now it's not that volatile, which is quite nice for a brief period of time. And I think once we get, of course, we've got the new halving coming in the first half of next year. Let's see what happens then, but I think the general feeling is we will see an upward trend. So that's it. So I'm going to sign out. As I'll try and keep it short. It's probably been a bit longer than I hoped for. So last year I think was well, that's not last year, sorry, this year was reasonably successful for us. We launched some major products. We fixed the issues that came out upon the launch, and we've improved pretty much everything that we started with. And all of those improvements are critical to our first quarter next year when we move into the B2B space. And I think that will be really a big turning point for not just us, but actually in the crypto space. Companies that were previously struggling with banks will switch into a payment solution that is fundamentally different, faster, and more efficient than anything they've ever faced before, and that will have a knock-on effect. So we're very excited for this. That's it, really. So if anybody is watching this and you have a Christmas coming up, I hope you enjoy yourselves. The team here at Crypterium, we're all working away. I'm working from home today. Being in the UK, it's our Christmas starts on Wednesday, but I know for some others the dates are a little bit different. So anyway, have a great Christmas, have a happy New Year, and I will be back early in the new year to deliver on all those promises we've made, and probably give an update at the end of January. Okay, thank you everybody for listening, and I hope you have a fantastic new year. Bye bye.